So it is time for my April wrap up. Just a bit of a pre-warning, I have all of my notes attached to my tripod and I have a feeling it's going to fall any minute, so be aware. So this month I read a total of 10 books, which is actually really good. So I took part in the Basically Readathon where I spent the entire day reading on the 5th of April. That was hosted by Basically Brit. I just decided to jump into that one random day. And I don't really know why, but it was a really good day and I really enjoyed it. So check out my vlog for that, which I will link up here. I don't know where it's linked. It's linked up there somewhere. So this month I've decided to change it up. I'm going to be telling you about the books that I've read this month in the order that I actually read them rather than going by star rating, because I think a lot of people seem to prefer it going this way. It's like a bit of a surprise for what rating you gave books. And I think a lot of other booktubers have started doing it this way, and I just think, well, if that's what people like, I'll do it too. So, the first book that I finished reading this month was I See You by Claire Mackintosh, and I absolutely love this book. This book follows a woman called Zoe who, on her way home from work, finds a picture of herself in the classified ads in the newspaper. She is surprised to see that it's her photo, and it's literally just a contact email on how to find her. And she takes the newspaper article home, she shows it to her family, and she says, "This is a bit weird, why is my face in here?" And they say, "We don't really think that's you, it must just be someone that looks like you." And they just forget all about it. And then the next day, she sees someone else's photo. And then the next day, someone else's photo. And she starts trying to piece together what's going on. Was that woman that she saw really just a lookalike of her? Or is it something bigger? And she starts to investigate. And it is actually really interesting. I didn't think I would like this book as much as I did, but I loved it so much. I thought it was so good that Claire Mackintosh is actually now an Instabuy author for me, because I've read 2 of her books. I think she only has like 4 or 5, which is a shame, but I hope that just means she's starting out and she's going to have a lot more. So the first 2 that I read this one, and then I read I Let You Go, which is actually there. And both of them were absolutely amazing, and I love them both. So whenever I see a Claire Mackintosh book, I'm going to get it. But this is really interesting. It really kept me gripped all of the way through, and the ending was very, very tense. So if you like a good thriller, definitely pick this one up. Now, the next book I read was a audiobook. So go me. I'm quite proud of myself. And it was To All the Boys I Loved Before. Now this book had so many disadvantages. Like, I really did not think I was going to like it. One, it is just a typical teen romance book, which anyone that knows me knows that ain't my jam. And also, I got it via audiobook because it was free and I had a subscription to Audible when I took out my phone contract. And I just kind of picked it up randomly. I thought, I suppose I'll give it a go eventually. And I just decided to listen to it. And I thought, right, I'll just do it casually. I'll just read it when I have nothing else to do. And I ended up really loving the book. And I don't know why. I don't know whether it's the book. I don't know whether it was Audible. Because I've listened to a lot of audiobooks before and none of them really interested me. I just couldn't get into them. So I don't have any specific love for audiobooks because I actually really don't like them. But this book was actually so good, and it really kept me interested, and I don't know why, but it did. And I cannot wait to actually get a physical copy of the book so that I can try again and see how I feel about it a second time. And also, I want to carry on the rest of the series and see how much I love them. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and that was another 5-star. And it was a great start to the month. I'm actually quite glad. Went downhill from there. But it was a great book. Really loved it. And that follows the character of Lara Jean, who, when she falls in love with somebody, she writes them a letter because she doesn't want to tell them, but she wants to get her feelings out there so that she can just process it and get over it. So she writes all of the boys she has loved a love letter, puts it in an envelope, seals it, and keeps it safe in her room. And then one day she finds out that all of the letters she has written have gone out to all of the boys. And it's a story about that because one of the boys is actually her sister's boyfriend. And I don't really know how to talk about it without kind of spoiling more, so I'm not going to. Just know it's a very easy read, very fun. Cannot wait to read the rest. Absolute 5-star. It was great. Then, the next book I read was Come Again by Rob Webb. Now, if you have watched any of my weekly vlogs discussing this book, you will know I was not a fan. I really started it on such a high note. I really loved it. I thought it was great. The book is split into 3 parts, and what the book basically is about a woman who wakes up one day and decides that she wants to end her life because her husband has died of a natural medical condition, and she's so depressed and suicidal from losing him, she can't handle it anymore. And it was really upsetting. And then she wakes up the next morning and she is in the body of her 18-year-old self. And she decides, this is the day I meet him for the first time. This time, I am going to make sure I save his life. And it started on such a high note and it was so interesting. I don't think it was anything relatively original because I think that story has been done quite a few times. I don't really know about books, but I know it's been done in like TV shows and films quite a few times about the going back in time and saving someone's life. But I was kind of willing to give it a go. It was an ARC book. I was really interested in it. And it did so well. It was split into 3 parts. Part 1 was before. Part 2 was when she went back. And part 3 was afterwards, the repercussions of that. And I'm not really going to give you details about what happened in each of the parts. But part 1 and 2, I loved. I thought it was done so well. I loved the story. I thought it was great. I felt all the feels. Part 3 basically just took everything and kind of unraveled what it had done and tried to make a happy ending, but in the wrong way. Like, it didn't make me feel happy. It made me angry because it was just unnecessary, and really it wouldn't have happened. If it was any particular way, it would not have happened. And I know the book's obviously not real. You don't go back in time, really. But I just think it was so unrealistic, even for this type of book. And it angered me so much. And it literally dropped a 5-star book down to 2. And I only give it 2 stars because the majority of the book was good, but the ending just ruined everything. And I couldn't forgive it. So, yeah, I did not like that. The next books I actually read were actually part of the Basically Readathon that I mentioned. Now, the first book that I picked up and sadly DNF'd because I just was not in the right headspace for it was The Stranger on the Bridge by Johnny Benjamin. And it's a really interesting story. I may attempt it again this month because there is the mental health-a-thon, and that is actually one of the books I've chosen for a prompt, which is the newest book on my TBR, because I really do want to read it and it was really interesting. But I was quite down anyway because of current circumstances, plus I just felt down, and reading the book brought me to an even lower level and really made my mental health deteriorate quite quickly. So in the end, I just said, look, I can't do it. I need to put it down. I'm just going to focus on the books I've got and try and build myself up. So that's what I focused on doing, and I put the book down. And to be honest, I'm not really that interested in going back to it. Like, I want to do it, but now I just kind of have the negative feelings associated with the first time I tried reading the book. So it's making me not want to try again. But I'm going to try and push past that and try it because I don't think those negative feelings were about the book itself, more just my memory of how I felt when I first listened to it. So I hopefully will be getting back to that eventually. And I read that via ebook. Oh no, that was audiobook actually as well. I read that via audiobook. I borrowed that from my library because we have a digital library up here. And yeah, it wasn't for me. Want to try again. I guess I'll see. So the next book that I read during the Basically Readathon, and I read the entire book in one day, and I did it as a buddy read with Brooke from Brooke's Books, and that is The Stranger by Harlan Coben. Now, I've watched the TV show of The Stranger, and I absolutely loved it. I binge watched the entire show in one day because me and my friend were just sat there one morning. I stayed over at my friend's house and I said, right, I should probably go because I have something to do this evening. And I didn't leave. I literally woke up, had breakfast and said, right, I should probably leave at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. And we just said, oh, should we just watch an episode while we're having breakfast? So we put an episode on and we binged through the entire series. There are 8 episodes and I've watched all 8 of them that day. And I ended up leaving, going home, getting ready and doing what I had to do within like an hour and a half period. It was a very stressful time, but it was so worth it. And I fell in love with that TV show. I thought it was so good. So I instantly bought the book because I wanted to read it because, as we all say, the book is always better. And it wasn't. I really loved it. It was very good. 4-star rating. Loved the book. I thought it was great. But it did let me down because I really preferred the TV show. And that very rarely happens. So if it does happen, you know that the show was really, really good. And it was. I don't know why. I just felt as though something was missing for me in this. And I also felt, I know it's ridiculous, but after the first instance where we met the stranger, I felt as though the stranger wasn't present really again in the book. Whereas in the TV show, they accommodated that and they actually made the stranger quite a big character in the TV show. And I kind of preferred it. And I thought it was good. The TV show also had a lot of interesting subplots that weren't really relevant, that wasn't actually in the book. And I really liked them as well. So, had I read the book first, I don't know how I would have felt. But sadly, I read it after. And it just wasn't as good. But it was great. I really did enjoy it. Absolutely would recommend. But if you've seen the show, just kind of go in with a bit of caution that there is a lot of differences with this. So, the next book I actually read was The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones. And I read this book and vlogged it because I've never actually read The Mortal Instruments before. I've never read a Cassandra Clare book before. So, because this is such a well-known, popular series, and it's caused quite a lot of controversy on whether it's actually a good series or not, because a lot of people say, no, it is not, I decided to vlog my reading for the first time experience. And I did it, and I loved it. I fell madly in love with it. I don't want to talk about it too much because I have an entire vlog dedicated to reading the book. So if you have read this book, I would recommend you go watch that vlog. If you have not read this book yet, but you want to, I would not watch that vlog because there are spoilers all the way through. If you haven't read the book and you're not really that interested in reading the book, but you want to know what I have to say, go watch the vlog. But great book, 5 stars, absolutely loved it. Will 100% be continuing the series. One of my favourites ever. I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, the next book that I read via Kindle, and that was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And I was so close to DNFing it. When I first started, I thought, right, this is actually alright. It's such an easy read. It's kind of interesting. I'm all on board, which is interesting because I didn't like the TV show or the movie. I hated the movie of Alice in Wonderland. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised that I was enjoying the book. And then it just went downhill. The book literally just made no sense. And I know it doesn't need to make sense because it's Alice in Wonderland. That's kind of the point. She's in a world that doesn't make sense. But I just felt like Lewis Carroll wrote sentences that were just random words. Like the sentence didn't even make sense and I didn't understand it at all. And I struggled so much, but I thought I'm determined to get to the end of this book because it is not that long. And I just wanted to get to the end of it because I thought I've put in too much time and gone through the horror of this book to DNF it now. So I went through it, finished it, and it got a 1 star. And I quite feel bad about that because whoever I've told I've given the book a 1 star to, they've always responded the same way and all said, oh my god, it was one of the favourite books I've ever read. And it's made me feel so bad because I'm like, maybe I need to reread it and see what people really love about this book. Because I really do love hearing other people's opinions on books. And when someone tells me that one of the worst books I read was one of the best books they've ever read, I'm like, kind of want to go into it with your mind and see how and why you like it now. So, I'm not saying no to a reread. I'm just saying I need to get over doing it the first time first. But, yeah, read it, 1 star. Did not like it, was very, very close to DNFing it. Really, I just kind of pushed on for the hell of it. Now, the next book I DNF'd again, sadly, and that was The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. To be honest, it wasn't an issue with the book. No, I'm lying. It was totally an issue with the book. I went in with a preconception of this book, thinking it was going to be a bit of a thriller and a dark book. And I know, I don't even mind. Laugh at me for it. When I read The Casual Vacancy, I assumed that a murder was going to happen, and then somebody, just a randomer or a private investigator or something like that, was going to check into like a motel with a vacancy, and he was going to have just a casual vacancy with the hotel or motel and solve this crime. That is not what this book is. This book isn't even a thriller. I don't even know what this book is. It's just, I googled what is this book, like what is the genre, and it literally just come up with fiction. I was like, oh, that helps. Yeah, great. Literally, what this book is, it's about a guy that dies. Not even a fun way, natural causes, very sad. And it's about the local town. I think there's a town council, and someone takes up the casual vacancy on the town council. I'm going to try and find the definition of what a casual vacancy is, because it's in this book. There we go. A casual vacancy is deemed to have occurred, A, when a local councillor fails to make his declaration of acceptance of office within the proper time, or B, when the notice of resignation is received, or C, on the day of his death. So basically, a casual vacancy occurs when a councillor dies. And the guy that dies, I'm assuming, was one of the councillors, and there is a vacancy now on the council, and it's about someone joining the council, because the town is like secretly at war with itself. Which is really boring. It sounds craply political. I'm not very political as it is, but it sounds like it's not even interesting politics. It's just town council. I feel like I'm watching an episode of Emmerdale. It's just not interesting. But I read 50 pages of a 500-page book, and I said, not a chance am I carrying on with this. I originally thought I was in a bit of a reading slump, so I stopped, and then I picked it back up again a few weeks later, and I still had to stop. It was just awful. And there's not really much to say. In the first 50 pages, the guy died, and the town gossiped about it. And that is literally it. That is honestly all that happened. And I mean, I know it was 500 pages. I need a bit of a build-up. But something interesting needs to happen in that time, and nothing interesting happened. Sadly, I think eventually I'm going to have to pick this book up again, because it is one of the 100 books to read before you die on my list. And I have to do that. It's on my bucket list to complete that list. So I have to read this book because I need to cross it off. Which I'm not looking forward to. But for now, goodbye. If the camera angle has changed, I do apologise. I got a phone call midway through filming, so you kind of got picked up and put back. So if it's changed, I'm very sorry. I don't really know where you originally was. So the next book I read after The Casual Vacancy was Beartown, and I loved the book. It got 4 stars from me. I thought it was excellent. It is by Frederick Bachman. The story follows a town being obsessed with ice hockey, and it shows that the town gets split apart, absolutely devastated by events, because one of the main star players of the ice hockey team is accused of raping a young girl. And the town basically splits up because they can't decide whether they need to support the young girl or whether they need to support the team. Because all they talk about is how much the team matters and how important it is for the team. But as a result of that, say that the young girl is lying, or if she's not lying and it actually happened, then she asked for it. And it is really devastating to read. It is heartbreaking. There are obviously content warnings for rape, but the story is absolutely wonderful. It calls into question so many themes of rape culture, homophobia, pack mentality, especially when it comes to the team, and I thought that was so interesting. And also it calls into question the theme of trust, because a lot of the people you think you can trust in this book end up turning against the young girl that was raped, and it's really sad to see. But then a lot of people that the rapist trusts turn against him because they don't believe that he's innocent. And it is so interesting to see and so interesting to read about. And Frederick Bachman is such a good writer. It's translated, so, you know, props to the translator as well. But it was so well done and so beautifully written that the terrible content and the most horrendous storyline was written in such a beautiful way that he can say the worst things and have it have such an impact without basically shattering your world and devastating you to read. And it was so good, so interesting. I have a dedicated review, so just check that out if you want to know more. All of my reviews are relatively spoiler free unless I say spoilers in them. That book was excellent and I loved it, and I don't really know what more I can say about it without repeating myself from my vlogs or the review, so please feel free to just go and check that review out. So after Beartown, I then read The Outsider by Stephen King. Now, this is one that I had to read for my book club. Everyone in my book club has read the book, and it was my decision. I chose the book this time, and I was the only one left that hadn't read it. And my God, I love this. This was really, really good. I gave it a 4-star on Goodreads, but it is a 4.5. I really, really liked it. And the story follows a police officer as he discovers the body of a young boy. It is absolutely horrendous what has happened to this boy. He's been sexually assaulted. He has been partially eaten. It is an horrific crime scene. It is awful. But what they know 100%, because they have witness statements, DNA evidence, they arrest Terry Maitland, who is a very upstanding member of the community. He is the coach for a little league team. I think the little league. Baseball. I don't know baseball very well. He's a coach for a baseball team for young children. And the main character, Ralph, orders a public arrest. Basically, Ralph takes it very personally because he knows Terry Maitland. Terry Maitland has coached Ralph's son, and he's hurt that Terry could do something like this. So he orders a public humiliation by having him arrested in front of thousands of people. But they know it was him because they have undeniable evidence. Until they find out that there is DNA evidence, video footage, and witness statements proving that Terry Maitland was not in the city when the murder happened. He was actually very, very far away in another state at a conference. And the book is about how can this man be in two places at once? How can he leave DNA evidence at both the crime scene and at a conference in another state at exactly the same time when there is proof? There is video footage and witness statements at both scenes saying undeniably it is him. And then the book kind of splits up. It's kind of genre changing, but I decided to roll with it because normally as soon as it changes genres I'm like, nope, I'm out. You kind of lured me in with something I liked and then changed it up, and I'm not a fan. But I thought, you know what, go with it, see if you enjoy it, and I really, really did, and I thought it was great. Excellent book, 4.5 stars. I said that weird, but oh well. I have a dedicated review again, so check that out. Check all of my reviews out, guys, honestly. If you want to know more, check them out. If you're not interested, obviously don't. But great book, absolutely loved it, and I would love to read this again eventually. 4.5 stars, yeah, loved it. The next book I read was Target Alex Cross by James Patterson, and I gave this book a 4-star rating. I really, really enjoyed it. It's James Patterson, Alex Cross, so everyone knows that I'm going to be reading it eventually. And I really enjoyed the book. I thought the storyline was very interesting, but I did have a couple of issues. For starters, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the rest of the Alex Cross series, and I don't know why. I just couldn't get a hold of it very much. I just struggled. And I think largely that is down to the fact that there are often multiple point of views when it comes to Alex Cross. He shows Alex, he shows other detectives, he shows the criminals, and I really like that. And it's really interesting. But what he did in this book was show the perspective of all the criminals involved, and there were 6 of them. So there was Alex's perspective, his wife's perspective, I think another perspective after that, and then 6 criminals' perspectives. So for starters, there was a lot of perspectives. But I don't mind. When it's characters that I know, I'm okay with it because I can differentiate between whose point of view we're following very easily. So we was introduced to 6 new characters, which kind of threw me, and they were all assassins. Every single one of them were an assassin on the run. So all we found out from each perspective was who they killed or who they was disappearing from or who they was running away from. And I just found myself every time, I was like, right, which one are you? Which assassin are you? Who have you killed? Why are you running? What is happening next with you? Because there were so many, I just couldn't differentiate between them because there was all similar people with the same motivation, the same job, and that was it. Like, there was a bit of a difference because one of the assassins was a female, one was a male, the other were a married couple, and it was interesting doing it that way, but also didn't entice me as much. But I thought it was great. But good book, James Patterson, Alex Cross, love it. Of course I do. Just a couple of issues. Not my favourite, probably my least favourite book of the Alex Cross series so far. Then, finally, I thought that was going to be the last book, but apparently it was not. I started, because I finished the day early, reading an ARC book that I needed to read for May. And it's in my May TBR, and that is Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. And I thought it would be quite interesting to read. I just thought I'll start it, take it slow, get it done, and then I can do it. And I read it in one day. The story follows a woman called Marin who sadly loses her son. She is out shopping with him and he is kidnapped because she was texting a friend and wasn't paying attention. And then it goes ahead 16 months and Marin finds out that her husband is having an affair. And then she embarks on a journey to keep the remaining family that she has because she's lost her son. She will not lose her husband as well. And I was really interested by it. I went into the book blind, so I didn't know any of this beforehand. And wow, it was so good. I've seen another booktuber review this and basically said the start was amazing, the end was amazing, the middle was quite boring. So I was kind of prepared for that. And the start was very action-packed, very amazing. The end, very action-packed, very amazing. The middle, I didn't find it boring. There was no action. It wasn't kind of like the typical thriller scary action. It was very psychological. But the start set up something that was going to happen. You knew what was going to happen because you knew what the plan was. And all of that middle bit where nothing really happened was scary to me because I was sat there like, right, nothing is happening. It's not tense at all. When it happens, it is going to hit me like a brick. And it did. And I really didn't find the book boring at any point at all. I thought it was interesting, fun. It's very much a psychological thriller, but really, really good. So, and absolutely would recommend. I have a feeling that the book is actually out. It was an ARC book that I was meant to read before May, and I have a feeling the book came out a couple of days ago. So check it out. Absolutely would recommend this book. It got a 5-star rating from me. I loved it, and it was a perfect way to end the month. So, that is it. They are the books I've read. I read 10 books and I had 2 DNFs, which is quite sad that I had DNFs. Now I want to take a look at the stats that I do. Please let me know in the comments if you actually like the stats, because obviously I don't want to do stuff like this if no one is actually interested in the stats. So, for my stats, I read 4 5-star books, 4 4-star books, no 3-star books, so it was a very extreme month for me. I either really liked them or really didn't like them. 1 2-star book, 1 1-star book, and then I DNF'd 2 books. I read 6 print books, 3 ebooks, one audiobook, and then 2 books from the library. One was an ebook from the library, one was an audiobook from the library. I wanted to read a range of genres, and I definitely have done it again. I'm quite proud of myself for sticking to it. To All the Boys I Loved Before is a contemporary and a romance. Come Again was a romance book. City of Bones was a YA fantasy. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is a children's book. Beartown is a literary fiction book. The Outsider was a horror. Then my next target was to read 1 James Patterson book a month minimum, and I did read 1 James Patterson. I read Target Alex Cross. So this month for my 2020 challenge, I read a book with a cover that is my favourite colour, and that was The Outsider by Stephen King. Then I also read a children or YA book, which was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And then finally, I read a book with more than 20 letters in the title, and that was To All the Boys I Loved Before. That is all from me. I do have 1 parcel to unwrap right now. I know what the book is though, and I'm really looking forward to opening it. I also have other parcels to unwrap, which I filmed throughout the week because I got the parcels. I didn't really want to wait until I filmed this to unwrap them. So they're also going to be included. But if you're not interested in the unboxings, then this is where we say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested, let's get straight to it. So, I know this book is from Chloe Reads Books. Because Chloe said she would send me this book, and I am actually really looking forward to reading it. And it says, oh my god, look how pretty that is. Thank you so much, Chloe. That is adorable. I've never had a book with sprayed edges before. That is stunning. I can never get rid of this book now. And the book is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So thank you so much, Chloe, for actually sending me this book. I am in love with it already. It is amazing. So it is Wednesday afternoon. A parcel has arrived. Hey Connor, I thought this one looked interesting, and I know how much you love James Patterson. It's been a lot of fun buddy reading with you. Thanks a lot, Mel. Also, this is from a book fiend named Mel. I love it. It's James Patterson Expelled. Mel, thank you so much. I appreciate this so much. It means the world to me, and I love it. Thank you so much for a James Patterson book. Like, James Patterson's my life. I love a good old JP. So it's, what day is it? It's Friday. And a parcel turned up, and it's a very big parcel. Like, it's not very wide, but it's very long. Like, the gift itself, whatever that is actually this length and this thick. So I'm going to get straight to opening it. And I like doing it this way because I get to open them as and when I want to. Hope you're staying safe and enjoy your gift. From Catherine. That's so good. This is amazing. Look how beautiful that is. Catherine, thank you so much. That is the sweetest thing. So I am here again, and I have another parcel. Hi Connor, hope you enjoy, from Kira. Oh, I know Kira. Oh, this book is really heavy. This book has been on my radar for quite a while, and I'm so excited to actually give it a read. Thank you so much, Kira. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to read this.